We're going to do a market watch on 5 wide receivers for Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're going to look at their player values. We're going to look at their advanced metrics to see whether or not you want to buy, sell, or hold them for Dynasty Fantasy Football. But before we do that, you need to click that subscribe button right now because I'm going to help you with your rookie drafts. We're going to cover those rookies in depth, especially during the NFL draft. I'm also going to help you build your Dynasty teams. Click that button, stop missing out. But we're going to start off today with Devonte Smith. Right now, he's being valued as the wide receiver 19 in Dynasty ADP, 30.67 overall, 30th player off the board. This is per dynastyleaguefootball.com. Recent ADP for April. But last year, he saw 7 targets a game, 22.8% target share, and it was seeing 84.4 air yards per game and a 32.6% share of the air yards. All good numbers when it comes to volume there. Very trendy, very reliable. And you look at him last year when it's week to week in production, we had 4 wide receiver 1 weeks and he had 5 wide receiver 2 games, and his low point games weren't too bad to the point where he's productive enough week to week where you gotta look at him. When you look at his value here right now in Dynasty, it's not slipping too much. He got the contract, so look for him to stabilize. I don't look for him being a guy you're trying to buy due to the price, but I think he could be movable in the market. It could be a little bit liquid depending on what trades you put out there. He's getting some production there, and the fact that he's the wide receiver 2 on his team makes him an easier asset to try to get. Still a young wide receiver with some productivity to his name, and is getting the volume to make him a trendy asset for Dynasty Fantasy Football. I definitely do not see him as being a sell. I just don't see the value trending up high enough to want to just move him for whatever you can on the market. But if you need to, you're getting something decent out of him at wide receiver 19. More than likely, you're stalemated with him, and you might be able to catch him via trade in certain leagues. More than likely, he's a stalemate player, but you love to have him on your roster. One of those wide receivers that's just going to give you production for a long time, 3, 4, 5, 6 years or more. You're going to catch production from Devonte Smith. He's going to hold value at wide receiver 19, getting over a 20% target share and almost 85 air yards per game. That's a wide receiver that's going to give you those boom weeks on top of giving you some stable production, which is something you want out of your wide receiver for Dynasty and regular fantasy football. Rashod Rice, a big name right now due to his hit and run, and he might hit and run on you in your Dynasty League. When I look at him on the market, you might be able to catch him for a discount. You might, but I feel like the market's just holding right now. They're expecting him just to get a slap on the wrist, maybe get a huge fine, maybe miss minimal time. I feel like the market's saying that. I feel like what we saw recently in the news, it's saying that as well. Wide receiver 20 in ADP. I don't see him moving too much. He's got Patrick Mahomes. He's got reliable targets. He's getting some upside out of him. And he had a big run on the back half of the season. This is all in-season stats, not counting playoffs, but had an 8 out of 4.8. That shot up to 9 if you add in the playoffs per PFF for that one. 6.4 targets per game, 17.9% target share. The thing is, he's top 5 in accurate target rate from Patrick Mahomes, 30.7 air yards a game. Again, the air yards are not getting pushed downfield, but that could always change. If he starts getting deeper targets and pushing a 20% target share, this could be a wide receiver that explodes on us. Another thing you want to watch for is the NFL draft. Could this team pick up another wide receiver? Certainly, because what we saw on this team last year was a horrible wide receiver depth chart on there. Rashod Rice took over. We picked up Hollywood Brown. We could pick up another wide receiver. Rashod Rice had his incident. I would look at the wide receiver spot. That doesn't mean I would be picking one up, but with that many good wide receivers, if one falls to you in the second, third, fourth round or something like that, you're probably smashing that button if you're the Chiefs. You're probably thinking about that long and hard, and that could add competition in the offense. You don't have to be that great to take over in the Chiefs offense. You just have to be good enough because Patrick Mahomes throws those reliable targets. Rashod Rice, though, looking at him, what we saw in the back nine of the season, though, is something that makes you salivate. Is a wide receiver that you kind of want. I look at him on the market as a stalemate, just like Devonte Smith, because I do not see people whipping him out in trades, just trying to sell him on the low, because we saw what we saw last year. He was a rookie. He's in an offense that's very explosive. If you can catch him for a discount, and I know some people have because you see the trades on Twitter, then cool. More than likely, it's not happening. He caught almost 80 balls as a rookie in the Chiefs offense. You know, if Kelsey's on the way out sooner than later, then Rice is going to see more targets, more air yards downfield. That's going to increase. That should. You can't stay at a 4.8 ADOT forever. And most of that ADOT is buoyed from the first 9 weeks of the season where his production, his workload wasn't stable. Rashod Rice is a player that I would try to buy, and I would make his manager tell me no. With that being said, with him being valued at wide receiver 20 and ADP, let's watch this every month to see if that stays the same, and let's watch to see what the Chiefs do at the NFL draft. Tank Dell, wide receiver 21. Good discount here. You're catching him at a wide receiver 2 price tag, a rookie wide receiver who blew up last year, but some injuries got in the way. But we got some good production. 3 wide receiver 1 weeks, 3 wide receiver 2 weeks. That's also limited action due to him being out with the injury. That being said, that's solid. We all like CJ Stroud. Everybody likes how he pushes the ball downfield with accuracy. Tank Dell is a huge benefactor to that, and he's going to be on the team for quite some bit because he is a young guy going into his second year. Should give you plenty of years of production. 709 yards and 7 touchdowns. Would have hit over 1,000 if he was healthy last year. A 20% target share as a rookie and almost 100 air yards per game. You cannot beat that. We're getting deep targets downfield on top of a good clip on the target share. Almost 7 targets a game. That is a wide receiver when he's on the field, getting those money balls thrown his way, also running a lot of routes. I'm not worried about Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs fell off in the last half of last year. Tank Dell's a young wide receiver. He's on the rise, massively productive in college. I think the value is just right for him at wide receiver 21, considering he's a young guy with a new wide receiver there. But still, I think there's tons of upside for him. And at that price tag, you might be able to catch him cheaper in trade. You might be able to, due to the Stefon Diggs discount. But if I had him on my team, I would not be just giving him away. I think people like to cast players as buys or sells due to certain trade scenarios whenever new news happens. But Tank Dell, that ain't happening. I think he's going to be a huge hold. His manager saw him be productive last year. He gets deep targets. They know he's good. Everybody knows he's good. At wide receiver 21, that's a great price. 100 air yards a game last year, getting deep targets. Stefon Diggs is not getting that. We saw his ADOT dip last year. Nico Collins is going to stretch the field as well. CJ Stroud loves to push it downfield. Tank Dell forever with the Texans. Zay Flowers, wide receiver 22. The thing about Zay Flowers is nobody trusts Baltimore wide receivers. People don't trust Lamar Jackson. People don't trust this offense. And he was kind of consistent last year. Even on the low games, he was giving you double-digit production and fantasy scoring, but gave you 4 wide receiver 1 weeks, week 1 to week 17, and also 3 wide receiver 2 games. On the low games, he was pushing double digits. Had a couple low games on that as well. Almost 7 targets a game with a 24% target share, but this team does not throw it enough for him to hit that top end. However, when you look at things, he had a very good rookie season at 77 catches, 858 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The ADOT is a little light here at 8.4. You want him to get deeper targets. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but we did see that at Boston College, him getting some deep targets downfield. Had a double-digit ADOT during his career at college. That being said, that's in the realm possibility. You see that with his speed. He could be used as more of a deep threat later on down the line during his career, at least get some deeper targets here and there, maybe pushing an 8 out of 9, 10, or 11. And if that happens with a 24% target share, your ears are going to perk up. If he starts getting 70 to 80 air yards per game, you're going to see him being more valuable for fantasy football. Considering he's wide receiver 22, considering he's on the Ravens, considering we're getting more wide receivers from the 2024 NFL Draft, you might catch him at a good discount here, cheaper than wide receiver 22. If you're interested in him, you might be able to kick the tires and see if you can catch him at a cheaper price tag. DK Metcalf being valued at wide receiver 23. He's a very volatile wide receiver. Volatile last year, 2 wide receiver 1 weeks, some low points in the season, but his low points is okay because he hovers around that double-digit threshold there for fantasy scoring and can get you double-digit touchdowns. 2020 and 2021, 12 and 10 touchdowns for those seasons. He was a little light in the pants last year and the year prior in touchdowns, not hitting that double-digit mark. But if we get back to that, we might catch him in double-digit production. But the air yards is what you like about DK Metcalf. 98.3 per game, 40.5% air yard share. That's what you like, and we're also getting almost 8 targets per game. So we're getting a lot of targets. We're getting deep targets downfield. However, hitting on those deep targets doesn't always work out. That's why you're seeing big spikes with low candlesticks on there in his production. That being said, if you like streaky wide receivers with tons of upside, then he might be a wide receiver you want to get on the cheap. Wide receiver 26, he's not too old, but again, at that age, that could allow you to catch him in trade cheaper than wide receiver 23. You may want to shoot for that. At wide receiver 23 and at an ADP of 38.67, there's other players on the board. You may want to get a little bit younger if you want to do that, but his top end scoring is immaculate. That's something you want to look at. He is running a lot of routes. He's getting a lot of deep targets. But if you're not into older wide receivers, if you're not into wide receivers with streaky production, then he's not your guy. But if you like that, if that's something you're into, then he is your guy. And I think in some leagues you can catch him cheaper than wide receiver 23, especially with the rookies infused in there. That being said, he could be a player for you to look at if he's the type of wide receiver you want on your team. But I think DK Metcalf can be a discount in some leagues. In other leagues, some people ain't selling. They ain't moving off of him because he's a wide receiver. People build around wide receivers. Once they get their wide receivers, they're not moving off their wide receivers. That's just how the game is played. A lot of people build their dynasty teams around wide receivers. Even when they start to get a little older, start to show a little age, you see that number creep up a little bit, they will still hoard those wide receivers. I do the same thing. But with him starting to get older, you might be able to catch him at a discount in some leagues, maybe wide receiver 30 price tag, maybe somewhere around there. But we are seeing a little bit of dip in value when it comes to ADP. Something to look out for, something to kick the tires at if you're interested. But those are the 5 wide receivers we're looking at today. We're doing a little market watch to see whether or not you want to buy, sell, or hold any of these players. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.